What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. It's a Friday. Those of you guys are going to be following the Shanna Gardner, Jared Bridegan murder for hire case out of Jacksonville Beach. Hello. Good afternoon. Friday. Shanna Gardner, Jared Bridegan murder for hire case out of Jacksonville Beach. Jose Baez is the lead attorney for Shanna Gardner. This is wild, but I want to take us back to the beginning. I made a video back. I don't remember the date on this video. Let me see. I'll look for it. I don't know at the time. But here we go.
Will mark 1 month since the murder of this St. Johns County father of four on a quiet street in a Jacksonville Beach neighborhood. For the first time, the widow of St. Johns County man Jared Bridegan is sharing her family's pain.
And this comes as detectives still search for the killer.
Even if you don't care about our family, like, someone's out there that did this. They didn't care that there was a child in the car. They didn't care that he was a great guy. They just shot him. Everyone should care about that.
And tonight, Kirsten Bridegan shares her story only with News4Jax reporter Vic Michelucci. He joins us from the scene of the murder on Sanctuary Way. Vic.
Stacey, it is a crime that has shaken up this community. We have heard from the neighbors who are concerned. Now, for the first time, we are hearing from Jared Bridegan's wife. She is obviously devastated, frustrated, and still frightened for her own family's safety. It happened back there, and right here we see a small memorial with this new sign. That is the truck that detectives are looking for.
Good girl, Bex.
These videos give us a glimpse of who Jared Bridegan was.
I love my dad because he's the best.
Someone who loved his family, humble and humorous. A successful software engineer, but a hands-on father of four.
What is
9-year-old
that?
twins Liam and Abby from
What
a
is that?
previous
Unsolved
marriage.
cases of news.
2-year-old Bexley and a newborn, 6-month-old London.
The minute you met him, you just fell in love with who he was. He honestly was the best dad. Whenever I needed a break, he scooped up all the kids, took them out, did something, or took them outside and gave me a minute to catch my breath.
For Jared's wife, Kirsten, the world stopped on the night of February 16th. He had just dropped off his older two children at their mother's house in Jacksonville Beach when he stopped for some reason on Sanctuary Way near JTB. Police believe it's because of this tire in the road. You can hear the gunshots in a neighbor's surveillance. Detectives tell us someone ambushed him at close range, killing him near the driver's door, his flashers on, his 2-year-old daughter Bexley in the back seat. She wasn't hurt.
We started driving down the route we usually take out to the beach, and I kept calling his phone. And then one of the policemen answered it. And that's when I knew, like, my gut feeling was right and something was really wrong. I asked if my husband was okay. And I was just told to drive to the police station. And I asked it again, the same thing, just come to the police station. But that my daughter was okay.
This is pretty much where the scene was.
Jacks Beach Police and ATF agents are working tirelessly to solve the case, releasing this video of a dark-colored 2004 to 2008 Ford F-150. It has running boards, brown trim, and a silver toolbox. Investigators are exploring all options, looking at all potential motives, and not ruling out anyone as a suspect. Are detectives still making progress?
They are. It's, because it is an ongoing investigation, there's a lot we can't talk about. But I can tell you that every day they're making a little progress because of the information that's coming in, the information they've obtained through their investigation.
Kirsten, was there anything that happened before that would have been a threat, that would have foreshadowed this murder?
Nothing. No. I rack my brain. I stay up. I don't get much sleep. I stay up all night long thinking, why? Or, was there any hint that this was coming? And there was none.
Do you want to mix it a little bit?
Bridegan's loved ones are asking, begging for anyone with any information to do the right thing. The reality is, someone watching this could have done it or could know who did this. They could be watching this. What is your message to them?
If you know anything, please say. Whether for the money or just help me and his 4 kids get answers. Or just because you're a basic, decent human being, please say something. So no one deserves to go through this, especially not Jared.
A really difficult interview to do. If you know anything, the Bridegan family begging for your help. There is now a $13,000 reward from First Coast Crime.
Who would want to kill Jared Bridegan? What do we know about the crime scene? Jared's flashes were on. Nothing was stolen from the car. It was a very... Okay, so I made this video back, I want to say last summer. Maybe even before then. So this was for everybody that's asking to be brought up to speed on this case. I have a couple of videos that I did pre-records that will help. And then there's some new stuff I want to talk about. Narrow road. There was a Nest camera that caught the timestamp of the gun blasts. There was a tire in the middle of the road. There's a blue F-150 seen on a camera in the area. And then I noticed that the police were using a metal detector looking for shell casings. This tells me that the police knew that the person who shot Jared knew what they were doing in terms of making sure that they got the shell casings before leaving the crime scene. So what the investigators would have at that point is they would have the bullet wounds, the bullets that would be inside Jared, the trajectory of that. But without those shell casings to be able to match a gun and ballistics and all of that, without the shell casings there, you're not going to be able to do that. Depending on how the bullet is, you could. Being able to get the gunshots, they would be timestamped. So we would have a timestamp of Jared, basically the exact time of when he was murdered. Also then to look and see what time he dropped off his kids. Also, I want to know the distance between where Jared's ex-wife lived to then where Jared's home was. What was the distance? Where were they before he took his kids home to his ex-wives? Somebody knew Jared's routine. So they had a 1 week on, 1 week off transfer of the kids. And they began this in 2016 and continued all the way up until his death as they were fighting over custody, Jared and his ex. But every Wednesday, if it wasn't your week, you had date night. So you would come pick up the kids and be able to spend a couple hours with them. It's usually like 6 to 8 p.m. Was this someone who knew Jared's routine and path of travel? Yes, it's a little bit of both. This person, in my opinion, knew that Jared would be entering the development where his ex lived to drop off his kids and then be turning around and traveling back the same way that he had just previously came from. Who would have that type of information? Well, yeah, somebody that was stalking him to know his routine, that that's what he would do every Wednesday, or somebody that simply knew that intel without stalking him because you were part of his everyday life. There's no reason that you would have to follow somebody if you knew their routine. So you could be sitting out on the side of the road waiting for someone to then pass you by, only to then, okay, know that you have X amount of minutes to go ahead and set up your roost in the middle of the street in an area that does not have cameras on you. So you would have to, quote unquote, case maybe the surrounding area to see what houses don't have cameras and what houses do, and where you can get away with possibly, you know, being, maybe you're going to be heard, but you're not going to be seen. So everybody's surveillance cameras around that area, the days leading up and the weeks leading up to his death, in my opinion, would be important to see who was possibly casing that area, who was walking around acting maybe like a mailman or acting like a delivery person, and being able to check and see who had cameras. Obviously, right now, March 21st, 2023, we know that there's been 2 arrests in this homicide. But we're looking at this case and how did the police get to the point that they were able to, you know, pin this murder on that it was a higher type situation. How are you working through the investigation if you don't have that much to go on? And how were you able to obtain um, documents if you couldn't do it in search warrants and things like that? Um, but the first person that's looked at is obviously the spouse of a person. And I think that Jared's spouse, Kristen, his new wife, was looked over very, very quickly. And they moved on to the fact of his, very, very messy divorce from Shannon Gardner Fernandez. And that here you have, they've been fighting, going back and forth since 2016 for full custody of their children. That is a situation that you'd want to look into. But it would come back that if they have alibis of, yeah, we were home with our other kids, or in her situation, whatever this alibi would be, if they have surveillance at that house, if they're seen on their camera at that house. So here they knew that the ex-wife and her husband did not pull the trigger. But does that mean that they were not involved? Then they're going to look at Jared's work. Like, what was he involved with? Jared's friends. Was he involved in any, shady business and things like that? But I'm sure detectives, and as well as Jared's wife, knew that his ex-wife and Jared did not get along. And is she capable of a murder for hire? You have this truck that you're trying to figure out who owns this truck. You also have the bullets that would be, in Jared. I want to add to this because I am now in a position to add to it, is that why and how did they determine that that truck was so important to the crime? If it was just, there's plenty of cars seen on all different types of cameras. What led them to look into the F-150 truck? As you guys could see, it was a month after the murders when they were looking and put out posters about looking for this F-150 blue truck with a tannish trim. The reason this is important is that Mario Saldana would have known that they had that truck, okay, that they were looking for that truck, which he was arrested, and the person that was hired to kill Jared was arrested because Henry Tennant confessed to this. But the thing that's interesting to me is that anything to do with this truck would have been anywhere to be found by detectives. So much so that the detectives, on a random day that they went to the house of Henry Tennant, months later, like I'm talking like months later, Why would there be a random tire that was found on their property? Then one of the people, Jeremy, who lived with him there, picked it up, put it on the side of the house, and it happened to be all on the same day when the police came there. Why would this tire just randomly appear that belongs as the other matching tire from a tire that was put in the middle of the road? That should, like, I'm sorry, but as a human being, you should say, wait a second. Months would go by, and then all of a sudden, the second tire that would be the match to that tire, somehow they didn't get rid of that all these months later, and then just randomly is on the lawn of Henry Tennant's house, like where the owner of that truck. It doesn't seem like, that seems off to me, right? I mean, it should seem off to a lot of people. Let me show you guys something else. Oops. This is the version you would get from.
Shanna Gardner was born into wealth. Her parents had money, lots of it. She was also raised in a devout Mormon home. From the outside, it seemed like she was living a very stable, normal life. Then she met a man named Jared Bridegan during a trip to Florida. Jared was also a devout Mormon. They fell in love and got married in Utah in 2010. They began their lives together in Connecticut and began raising their twins. But then they moved to Jared's hometown in Jacksonville, Florida for the health of one of their children. It was here in Florida where life changed for Shanna. Marital problems, allegations of cheating, and actions very inconsistent with her Mormon upbringing. This led to a divorce. This also led to endless battles concerning the twins. Shanna did remarry. She met Mario Fernandez Saldana at the gym where she worked out. They fell in love and got hitched. Jared also got remarried and started a family with his new wife. Then Jared was murdered. Shanna skipped the funeral and moved to Washington State without her new husband. Then the killer, Henry Tennant, was arrested. Mario was then arrested. And finally, Shanna was arrested, charged with murder, facing a potential death sentence. How was Jared murdered, and what is Shanna's alleged connection to the killing? We'll take a closer look as we investigate the murder of Jared Bridegan. I'm Vinny Baldwin. Thanks so much for joining us. This is an incredibly tragic story. There are children without their father. Jared Bridegan was a dad.
Did a customs agent commit cold-blooded murder?
Marsha Thompson is accused of fatally shooting her husband as he's...
And Katie's role in the cold, calculated, and premeditated murder of Jared Bridegan.
One at a time, the arrests were made. First, Henry Tennant, the man who admitted committing the actual killing, the actual murder. Then it was her new husband, Mario Fernandez, and then Shanna Gardner, the last one to be arrested in all of this. Now, the challenge here is that Tennant is connected to Fernandez, but not directly connected necessarily to Shanna Gardner. Fernandez had a relationship with him prior to this happening. Shanna didn't. However, what is the evidence now that is connecting her to this entire plot? Let's take a listen to Detective Jones talking about how Henry Tennant got paid.
Who are the title holders or principals on these articles of organization?
Both Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez are listed as managing members, or what we consider owners of the LLC.
And the LLC's first choice home rent.
Okay, so the first thing that they show in this court proceeding to keep her out from getting bail are the articles of organization for the LLC. And the thing that they don't talk about here, though, is what year this was done. Like, they make it seem like it was just started up in January of 2022. And it was, the filing actually, it was 2019. So if you don't really look up at the corner top there to see that it was 2019, but the way that it was presented in court and the way that I understood it was like they tried to come across like they had just created this LLC. That's not true. 2019. Just want people to understand that.
What was the business of this LLC as incorporated?
The business was established to manage their...
Also, for whatever reason, it says that this is the voice of Detective Christopher Jones. I don't know why mainstream media wanted to present it that his last name was the last name Jones, as if like we weren't going to look into him or something. His last name is Detective Johns, Johns, Johns. Very, very important why mainstream media would want to put out the wrong name. Okay. Because then you can't do any like your own little, like, I want to vet what's going on here. So if you see right there, voice of Detective Christopher Jones, I don't know where they get that name from, but that is not the name of the detective, the lead detective in this case. And so Court TV, I'm going to need you to get better. I keep repeating, I'm going to need you to get better over and over and over.
Property holdings.
This document is an annual report. What does that mean?
This is just a document that's filed every year to basically let the state know this is still an active company and that to make any changes to the ownership or management of the company.
And this was filed in the upper right-hand corner, January 28, 2022, which was a few weeks before the murder of Jared Bradigan.
See how she says it? The lead prosecutor, her name is Stifler. Yeah, ADA Stifler. Can't make that shit up. And, oh, this was just filed just in the way she says it. Oh, yeah, that was just filed just a couple weeks before his murder. No, it wasn't filed a couple weeks before his murder. It was, you have to do this every single year, okay? And so it was just, your paperwork was, you needed to refile, like, you just have to keep it current.
Again, at the bottom, who are the still owners or signatories on this LLC?
The list of owners are Shannon Gardner and Mark Fernandez.
This is another exhibit, or another page on Composite Exhibit 3, again showing that.
Okay, now this is where it gets crazy. Now, they're at this bond hearing trying to keep Shanna Gardner from making bail, and the detective is testifying. Now, I want you to look up here, if you can, it says statement period, 4/1/2021 to 4/30/2021. And then they have this box highlighted. You see that box highlighted? And it says transfer from checking the Shanna Gardner irrevocable trust, okay? And that basically $5,000 went into that in 2021. But how all of us took it because of the way that Detective Johns is about to testify is that it was put in, they made this seem like it was 2022, the year of the murder, just after the murder, that basically they put in the $5,000 to then cut this check that they're about to talk about. Right? This is just wild.
The First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, appears to be monthly transfers from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust.
This check's on April 6th for $5,000 written to Emerton.
Then they hurry up and they move to the next exhibit. Okay. They don't mention a year. She then, ADA Stifler, lies and says that they talk about what year that was. Well, we said that was 2021. No, you did not. In fact, you move quickly to this slide right here. And if you can see here, okay, all of the years are covered up. On your standard checking statement, where's your date? Okay. It's over there in the right-hand corner. It's covered up with these 3 checks. Okay. If you look at the deposits and other additions, 3/8, there's no 2021 behind it, 2022 behind it. Okay. So they're making it seem like all of this is from 2022, the year of the murder.
Our first choice articles.
And in the subject line, it says Kickstarter.
Again, moving right into then, let's go to this. Kickstarter.
Good luck. Can you describe for the court, based on your conversations with Mr. Tennant, what this check is actually for?
Mr. Tennant stated this was the first of many payments that was supposed to be an investment into his health company, which was actually payment for the homicide.
Okay, so we're looking at this LLC they set up. Shanna is obviously funding it.
Now, this is before Jose Baez had his second day in court, which was to blow this all up and say, wait a second, you all misled us, blah, blah. He brought witnesses, yada, yada, yada.
With her trust fund money, that's how the payments are being made. Mike, what do you think about this connection?
The trust fund money didn't pay for anything because that transfer of money in 2021 happened in 2021. $5,000 in 2021. Okay. That would be a whole year way in advance of this. All right.
To get Shanna
in. And nobody could catch this.
Into this plot.
I like this. They're showing the income coming from the irrevocable trust that her family has set up, but then they're showing it coming to this joint account, then going out and paying the shooter. And unless that shooter has established a business that required 10 grand to get started, that's going to be a really tall mountain for them to climb as far as.
And all of these people come out, mainstream media, and go on this platform and talk about this evidence like it's some great evidence. No, it was falsified evidence. It was under false pretenses. You can't make this shit up.
Why were they giving him that kind of money? The relationship wasn't them paying him. It should have been him paying for a place to live.
Let's take a listen now to Detective Jones talking about text messages.
Detective Jones. He's still calling him Detective Jones.
Between Shanna Gardner and a friend.
There were two phrases that kind of.
Then they put out these text messages. You want to talk about prejudicial as fuck? These text messages from 2015. 2015.
For a continuation during all of their text messages, one of those referred to as a casserole, also aka funeral potatoes, or then there was the phrase of doing magic. Sorry.
So I don't want to interrupt you. Let's talk about the funeral potatoes casserole. Did these words, were they used frequently in conversations between Shanna Gardner and Vincent?
Yes, they were.
And in what context were they used?
In reference to the death of Jared.
What direction does this
The death of Jared
conversation take?
It's essentially just more about ways that Ms. Gardner is unhappy with Mr. Bradigan, that she would like for him no longer to be alive. And then they talk about casserole, and then they will move on to other things as far as how it causes death.
What direction does this conversation take?
Basically, just reaching out to Ms. Lee and stating.
Then Jose Baez says, on this big blow up that you did, you guys left out the LOL. See, you can even see the little thing over here, like your avatarish thingy. The LOL was cut off. Okay. And they leave it out. This is from July 17, 2016. This is a housewives group of 6 women venting about like relationships. Okay. 2016. This was the year of the divorce.
Hey, Shanna needs a guy who does permanent disappearing acts. And she says that she needs a magician for stupid, referring to Mr. Brodigan, and asks if she knows anyone who can basically accomplish this.
Erica Morse, to me, this is powerful as well. You're talking about the whole concept
I wonder if Vinny's going to feel so powerful about this when he finds out the truth.
that this case is someone with money has a little problem, and okay, well, money can make the problem go away, and that's the vibe I'm getting here.
Not only can money make the problem go away, but when you're used to having money, you're also used to hiring people to do the job for you. You know, just like you go to a nice hotel and you pay them to do the room service and the massage and all that. You're just used to hiring somebody to make a problem go away. But that's what I was referring to in that first segment, Vinny.
Who the fuck pays for a hitman in checks, y'all? Are you kidding me?
When we were talking about the depravity, those text messages were so bothersome. The fact that
I want to know if Henry Tennant admitted to being the shooter after all this. Now, layaway killer making payments. This is unbelievable. Absolutely. But best part about it is who doesn't get paid before they kill somebody? Not even a little something, something? Next up. Can't listen to idiots all day. Sorry. Next up. Let me go to this really quick. And it is. Now, this will be before Jose Baez had his last hearing. He had his own press conference, okay? And nobody usually does this. But Jose Baez felt the need because it was this bad. This has been after the first hearing for the bail.
Not something I do often. In fact, it's the first time I've outwardly spoken in this case, other than a few brief comments for which I was approached walking to my car previously. Other than that, I really make very few public statements about the case because I believe much of which should be done in the courtroom, except and unless there are matters of great public interest and importance. Having said that, I'll start off by telling you that my office has filed, or will be filing shortly today, a motion in this case advising the court of certain violations of Brady material, which is favorable evidence that was in the possession of the state and not turned over to the defense. Much of what the motion entails surrounds incidents and testimony that was elicited during the Arthur hearing, which is a bond hearing on May 15th of this year. Now, having said that, that is an opportunity for those of you who know or don't know, is an opportunity for the state to put on a certain amount of evidence to be able to show that the accused should be held without bond pending the outcome of the case. Now, during the course of that hearing, we learned of a meeting that took place between the two prosecutors involved in this case. One of them I see here today. I presume he's going to open himself up for questions after, and I would invite that, of course, to hopefully respond to some of the issues that occurred in this matter. First off, it's dealing with the testimony of Detective Johns, who during the course of that testimony elicited or spoke of certain text messages between a individual with whose initials are KJ and another person's whose initials are SL. This name had never been made known to us previously up until the night before the hearing. We objected to these text messages from coming in, and that was overruled. So they did come in a matter of course. We don't take issue with that. Detective Johns testified that he never spoke, that he believed one of his other officers spoke with this witness and that he did not. When pressed, he later stated that the witness had changed her phone number and they had a hard time getting a hold of her.
None of this is true.
The SL was actually watching the hearing at that time and was outraged by the lies told by Detective Johns in this matter. And I'll remind everyone, this is a death penalty case where the state is attempting to utilize the color of law to kill another human being. So, as part of this is testimony. Number one, it turns out that Ms. SL did not change her phone number. She has the same phone number and has had the same phone number since 2014. So that was an outright lie.
Outright lie.
That, no other detective spoke with Ms. SL. It was Detective Johns who, in fact, spoke with Ms. SL.
What?
That was his second lie, and that was upon being pressed. Now, these are clear, unambiguous, straight-up lies made by the lead detective involving a critical witness who was allegedly being solicited for to hire a hitman for murder. As it turns out, the actual truth was that this was a running joke between the two witnesses that I previously mentioned, who apparently witness SL's husband is an African-American, and there was a member who she worked with who had specifically approached her and made an offensive comment asking whether he knew any individuals who were involved with crime. So naturally, amongst friends, they continued to chide her, and that's specifically what was done within those text messages. They were text messages made in jest, and as you also heard during the course of that hearing, there was this meeting between the two lead prosecutors as well as the two lead detectives with KJ. KJ also got to view this hearing, and as it turns out, was equally enraged by some of the lies told by Detective Johns and some of the key facts omitted by the prosecution, such as the statements and many of the text messages that were displayed in an attempt to keep Shanna Gardner in custody. They were told specifically by KJ that many of them were made in jest and they were not taken seriously by anyone. And in fact, many of the individuals who were surrounding this case knew that.
Okay, so Jose goes fucking ham. Jose goes ham. So basically, Jared Bridegan is gunned down, murdered. In the middle of the road was a tire so that he would have to get out of his car to move the tire. He had, so Shanna Gardner and Jared Bridegan shared twins together. He was dropping them off. After he dropped off the twins on Wednesday, he had one of his other daughters with his new marriage, because they have two kids. One was 2, one was a baby. He had the 2-year-old in the vehicle. There was a tire in the middle of the street. Jared allegedly gets out to move the tire. At that time, he is ambushed and shot multiple times. Okay. Then there's allegedly this, like, nothing is seen. There's no witnesses. They come up with having this vehicle, this truck, and they talk to the people that were like coming down the street, coming around the street. They have all these witnesses that are like not witnesses to the actual crime, but witnesses that were there. So, next, they start this investigation, and this investigation leads to this guy, Henry Tenen. And it's like, again, how did you get to Henry Tenen? And then when you got to Henry Tenen, what are the odds that Henry Tenen would have gotten rid of his truck months ago, but that there's a tire that just randomly ends up on their lawn, and that the tire then gets put on the side of the house? And none of these people that think to get rid of a tire that would match the other tire that was in the middle of the road to commit a murder. And this was Mario Saldana's tenant, Henry Tenen. What a name. It was Mario Saldana, who Mario is the new husband of Shanna Gardner. And so the connection here is that Mario Saldana has like rental property. Henry Tenen rented from Mario Saldana for numerous of years, and he would also help him do like odd jobs. So he'd pay him for like landscaping, things like that. Then here's this guy. So of all the people in the world, you have all this money, you say, in the world, because Shanna Gardner's family is loaded, absolutely fucking loaded. You have all this money in the world, and their big old plan is to write checks after the fact for $5,000. Who doesn't get paid beforehand to do something like this? And then even if you're going to pay them after the fact, you're going to do it in checks? That has to be the stupidest shit I've ever heard of in my life, right? So again, Jacksonville Beach, they start, ADA Stifler, she starts running her own, like she's like getting subpoenas for everything. They're doing like monitoring people's phone calls. They're tapping everybody, pulling. I mean, I have the list of all the subpoenas. Okay. They start doing wiretaps. They start doing all of this shit. Okay. And it leads them to Detective Johns and his counterpart, Detective Lamont, going to this house and just randomly going there on a day that this tire is there. Okay. You guys, this would have been March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months later, Mario Saldana would have been at that house, okay, numerous times during that 6 months. And you're going to sit here and tell me that Mario Saldana wouldn't have removed a tire from their property that was like, what the fuck is this tire doing here? Okay. If you knew that this truck and all this stuff was involved and you got rid of the truck, but where the hell does a tire come from? A tire that would have been on the truck, that blue F-150. So even if it was a spare tire, hey, I'm going to get tires changed. Okay, but I'm going to keep those two. Keeps one of them because that's going to be the tire that's used in the middle of the road. Then I keep the other one just as a souvenir. Like, but I get rid of the truck completely at some dump yard, whatever, and I don't give them the tire with it. Again, just none of this makes any sense. That all these months would go by, and that here's some tire that was the other tire in the commission of this crime, miraculously poof comes out of nowhere and is on the lawn of the guy that did the hit, allegedly. But they don't arrest Henry Tenen because he did the hit. They arrest Henry Tenen. They pull him over when he's driving, and they get him on a driving infraction. And then from the driving infraction, they then bring him in and sit him in a room. Then they arrest him in August. Then they let him sit around for 3 months, 6 months. And then all of a sudden in January of 2023, he's over here confessing to being the hitman that was hired by Mario Saldana. He says, I don't even know who that broad is. Never talked to her in my life. Mario's the one, and implicates Mario is like paying for him to kill. Or no, at first, you need to hear there's different versions of the story. At first, it was, no, they borrowed my truck. They're the ones that did it. They borrowed my truck, had me wait at some restaurant. Then they came back with my truck. It wasn't even Mario. It was somebody else. It was all these different versions. And then they finally got to the point of saying, okay, it was, I did the shooting. Mario hired me, but he was with me. So you're going to have all these different. Now, if they handled Henry Tenen like they did the Jensen woman, holy balls, this is going to get wild. So they arrest then Mario in March of 2023. Then they arrest Shanna Gardner in 2023 in August. And did a whole big scene over, SWAT breaking down everything. Yet, then they were looking at text messages and phone because they had wiretappings on everything. And then one of the kids says, Mommy had to get a burner phone because of, I don't know. End of the day, this is a big old mess. But if you actually look at the reports, none of it makes sense. On even why Shanna Gardner was arrested. Okay. Because there's nothing connecting Shanna Gardner. Nobody said her name until they get to these text messages with KJ and SL from 2016. And they tell this KJ woman that she is a co-conspirator to commit murder against Jared Bridegan. Put her in a room in July of 2023, the month before they arrest Shanna Gardner, and blow up all these, communications and saying, and they're, what is this? What's going on? These are text messages from 2015, 2016, saying that you're a co-conspirator unless you're going to start talking. Like, you're going to basically give us what we need. Then they use her for the grand jury, this Kim Jensen woman. And then Kim Jensen watches the bond or bail hearing, and it's all lies. And so is this Susan Lee woman. And remember, these are all Mormon people, wives that are like in a group text message, and they have nothing else to do. They're stay-at-home wives, blah, blah, blah. And this Kim Jensen woman was like, I've been talking to Susan Lee Lee's had the same number for 25 years. I've known these people way before I ever met Shanna Gardner, Jared. We've been talking like this since basically out the womb. And stuff that was being said between me and her has nothing to do with what's being said between Shanna Gardner. Like, it's not about Shanna Gardner. And so basically, she comes out to say everything that Detective Johns testified to is not the truth at all. That's not how things went. I did not say those things in that room. In this unrecorded July shakedown. The prosecutor was there. ADA Stifler was there. That Maserati guy. Kim Jensen. And then Detective Johns and Detective Lamont. And they didn't record this conversation that took 3 hours. This is like your star witness. Who the heck does that? Okay. Didn't take any video, didn't take any audio, nothing. So they lie about what transpired in that room, to the point that Kim Jensen said that she was threatened. She was threatened. She came out and said in open court, nobody's going to go against the DA and the prosecutors and the police and put themselves with a huge big target on their back. This woman said, yeah, no, they did this to me. You guys can watch the episode yourselves, or it's actually a hearing. And I was just blown away. So then what I want to show you guys is this part. So obviously, I'm like, okay, I want to hear what people are saying about this. If anybody truly watched that hearing, you have serious problem. Like you'd have huge issues. So let's see this. This is
heating up trial in the murder for hire plot. Shanna Gardner is accused of plotting to kill her ex-husband, Jared Bridegan, with the help of her second husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana, as well as a man named Henry Tennant, who's now the admitted trigger man. He cut a deal with the state and is
exactly he cut a deal.
expected to be.
But other than that, I was very proud.
Roger Stone famously says that bad press is good press. No press is horrible. The guy always wants the press.
To see everybody there. But yeah, it's definitely similar. It's uncanny, you know, how similar it is. In fact, also one other issue that another similarity that you didn't mention yet is that also Jared was much more religious and seemed to have been part of the church. And
interesting.
Shanna was actually going away from the church. He just left the church. So very, again, similar to Dan Markel, who is becoming more religious at the point of person to the money. That's always a good part. But again, here, the question is going to be how much can they connect Shanna to the actual money? Seems like Mario's much more involved in the center of this. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, and I mean, to some extent, you can make the same argument with Donna. I mean, she's never texting the hitman in that case either, the hitman and the muscle. But yeah, we're going to see exactly how it plays out. These are some of the main characters in the middle. Obviously, the most important, that is Jared Bridegan with his young South Africa.
Saying in law enforcement, you have multiple perpetrators. The first
doing, he rubs people the wrong way because he's, you know, I think very slick, good looking.
You know, I would say that if these text messages were the linchpin of the probable cause affidavit, that could be very problematic, right? But I'm not sure how, you know, probative they are for the PC versus whether they.
And eventually they brought her back from Washington State.
Yeah, pockets. Talking, the company makes revenue in the hundreds of millions. So she gets arrested at a home that her parents bought.
You can get anywhere. So I mean, the flight risk is a concern. How problematic these text messages could be towards the probable cause. I'm not sure if these issues came up and were used as probable cause, or were they used later on after her arrest as the investigation was going on, or if they were found before.
Whoever KCL is, she's so misinformed. Yes, Carm, she didn't flee to Washington State. That's not even true. It took the governor of Florida contacting the governor of Washington to bring her back. That's not even fucking true. Oh my God.
Or, but not used as probable cause.
About it. But there's a filing in that case regarding trying to keep out all of the Vietnam flight, trying to keep his argument. So it certainly seemed that way. She was asking him about remedies and the.
Okay. I gotta get off this. I can't. But I want to go here to. This is the one.
Told that applications that were encrypted to communicate so that they.
Okay, here's where he takes the stand and talk about them. I want to talk about the money. Here's the money.
First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, appears to be monthly transfers from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust.
There was another transfer in April of the same amount.
And we'll come back to that trust in a moment. I'm going to move to State's Exhibit.
Okay, hold on.
Mr. Tennant was a tenant at one of their rental properties. Mr. Tennant, in an attempt to show him Mr. Bridegan, and both of those were failed attempts.
Other than the relationship of Mr. Tennant being a tenant of Mario Fernandez Saldana and Shanna Gardner's rental company, were you able to find in your investigation any other link or connection between Henry Tennant and Jared Bridegan?
None.
In your conversations with Henry Tennant, was Mr. Tennant able to, even before this night, describe what Jared Bridegan looked like?
Not at all.
What type of car he drove?
No.
Did he know on the night that he murdered Jared Bridegan that BB would be in the vehicle with him?
He did not know that.
Detective, I'm going to draw your attention to a screen that's in your witness box. Some of these exhibits have been entered by agreement of both parties. I'm going to start
So they stipulated these. Oh, fuck.
with Exhibit 1. Detective, what is this?
These are articles of organization for a limited liability company named First Choice Home Rentals LLC. And the second document is a annual filing for that same LLC.
Okay, so when you say that annual filing on State's Exhibit 2, this would be the annual report of First Choice Home Rentals LLC.
Correct.
Going back to State's Exhibit 1, you have some familiarity with this from your prior experience. Who are the title holders or principals on these articles of organization?
Both Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez are listed as managing members, or what we consider owners of the LLC.
And the LLC is First Choice Home Rentals. What was the business of this LLC as incorporated?
The business was established to manage their rental property holdings.
He says their rental property. Mario had them way before they were ever married and she ever knew him.
And these are some of the articles, the full exhibit the court will have. But under Article 5, the electronic signator on this Articles of Incorporation is Shannon Gardner. Is that correct?
I don't recall, to be honest with you.
Moving to State's Exhibit 2.
So she didn't show the signature. Why didn't she show the signature to say, is this what you've seen? She asks about the signature and he's like, I don't remember whose signature is on it. And so she just has to keep going. You have the papers there. Why wouldn't you show the signature part? Let me cross this bitch.
2, this document is an annual report. What does that mean?
This is just a document that's filed every year to basically let the state know this is still an active company and that to make any changes to the ownership or management of the company.
And this was filed in the upper right-hand corner, January 28th, 2022, which was a few weeks before the murder of Jared Brightigan. And again, at the bottom, who are the still owners or signatories on this LLC?
The listed owners are Shannon Gardner and Mark Fernandez.
See how there's no signature? It's just authorized personal detail. Like somebody could have typed that in. Anybody could type that in. Wait a second. AMBR. Interesting.
Moving to State's Exhibit 2, this document is exhibit on.
Okay, sorry.
Exhibit on, or another page on composite Exhibit 3, again showing that the First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, appears to be monthly transfers from the Shannon Gardner Irrevocable Trust.
Do you see how she got off that so quick? Do you guys see that? Let's count. Let's see how long it stays on this page. No wonder I couldn't get it.
This is a bank statement from Navy Federal Credit Union that helped.
Hold on. Where does he start it?
This is a bank statement from Navy Federal Credit Union that held the account for.
This is a bank statement. This is a bank statement. Doesn't say the year.
First Choice Home Rentals.
And in the exhibits the court will receive, you obtained these records via subpoena and they are accompanied by certification of records from Navy Federal.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's a red box here. Can you describe for the court what that is indicating?
The red box is indicating a transfer from a separate checking account also held in a federal credit union. In this instance, it's stating that on March 15th, $5,000 was transferred from the Shannon Gardner
March 15th. Doesn't say the year.
Irrevocable Trust account at Navy Federal into the First Choice Home Rentals account.
Then she goes to the next one. So we all thought that was March 15th. March 15th, 2022. Okay, why would you be showing us something from March 15th, 2021? But that's when it was from.
Another exhibit on, or another
Then she says another exhibit, so she doesn't say what it is.
page on composite Exhibit 3, again showing that the First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, appears to be monthly transfers from the Shannon Gardner.
Appears to be monthly transfers. Again, this is April 2021. It's a whole year.
Irrevocable Trust.
There was another transfer in April of the same amount.
In April for the same amount. He was about to say in April, because in April the same year.
And we'll come back to that trust in a moment. I'm going to move to State's Exhibit D. What records are we looking at here?
This is a PNC bank statement for Mr. Henry Tennant's account.
I'm sorry, file exhibit 4. In your discussions with Mr. Tennant,
This is a PNC bank statement. No year. They're very specific about not saying any years. This is a PNC bank statement from Henry Tennant's account. Okay. What year?
involving how he became a part of this scheme to murder Jared Brightigan, you mentioned that he was promised a payment. Can you give us any more details about what Mr. Tennant advised you that he?
This is page 3, 1 of 3. I'm trying to look for a year here. No, 3, 1.
Was promised and how he received this money.
He was promised $150,000 in the form of investment into a pallet business.
And was this payment going to come in a lump sum or in installments?
It's going to be installment payments.
Was there any discussion of why that would be the case?
As to not arise any suspicion.
And moving through composite exhibit 4.
So you guys, he didn't get, wait, what the fuck?
Or documents for Mr. Tennant and a portion.
Look at 3/5/2022 now. This is 3/5/2022. Where are the 3/5/2022 bank statements from Mario Saldana? Okay, you showed us bank statements from 2021 for Mario Saldana. Look it. Holy shit, this is sick.
Of a standard checking statement.
Oh God, you got off that so quick, girl.
Was there any discussion of why that would be the case?
As to not arise any suspicion.
And moving through composite exhibit 4, documents for Mr. Tennant and a portion of his standard checking statement.
Oh God, come on. No, get me. God. Okay, do that.
And that he was promised a payment. Can you give us any more details about what Mr. Tennant advised you that he was promised and how he received this money?
He was promised $150,000 in the form of investment into a pallet business.
And was this payment going to come in a lump sum or in installments?
It's going to be installment payments.
Was there any discussion of why that would be the case?
As to not arise any suspicion.
And moving through composite exhibit 4, documents for Mr. Tennant and
Got it. Okay. Holy shit. Okay, what are the dates? 3/28. Visa money transfer, Cash App. Oh my God, Cash App. Cash App. Biatch, Cash App. Then deposit reference 2,000 for that, 3,000 for that, and 5,000. Okay. 4/6, 3/28, 3/29. Okay. You sick son of a bitches. Wow.
and a portion of his standard check.
Deposit reference number. Deposit reference number. Deposit reference number. Online transfer from. Why is he transferring money? He was just.
Checking statement. Drawing your attention to the screen now, there's a red box. Can you describe to the report what is indicated by that on this checking statement?
The statement is indicating a deposit for $2,000 on March 28th. It would be in line with the check that's in the top right-hand corner.
Oh,
and this
shit!
is March 28th, 2022. This would be about a month and some time after the murder of Jared Brightigan.
That's correct.
And then a second red box.
Correct.
Describe what this indicates.
This is a check that was deposited on the next day on March 29th
Landscaping.
for $3,000. Also
It says landscaping.
written from First Choice Home Rentals.
Okay.
What's the other the landscaping too?
And on the next slide, we see the final check and final box. Can you describe what we're seeing here?
This check's on April 6th for $5,000 written to Henry Tennant from First Choice Home Rentals.
And in the subject line, it says Kickstarter, good luck. Can you describe for the court, based on your conversations with Mr. Tennant, what this check was actually for?
Mr. Tennant stated this was the first of many payments that was supposed to be an investment into his pallet company, which was actually payment for the homicide.
Now, the prior checks, the $3,000 and $4,000.
I want to show you guys something. Where's the deposit money? Right here. Look at what they didn't highlight. Underneath the transfer from checking for $5,000 makes it $18,000. A check for $1,052. You see that right there? $16,300 coming the fuck out in 2021. So Shanna's trust account couldn't have paid for that stuff because it got taken out. These fucking liars.
Exhibit or another page on composite exhibit 3, again showing that the First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, appears to be
Was
okay, so then there's that.
you start to kind of eliminate people who just had no reason or no capability of doing it.
During your investigation, did you do search warrants and subpoenas into Jared Brightigan and those in his immediate inner circle?
Did they ever say the year 2021?
Jared Brightigan.
That's correct.
And then a second red box.
Correct.
Describe what this indicates.
This is a check that was deposited on the next day on March 29th.
And they don't. And people think that this is normal. People think that this is normal. People think that this is normal. Natural healings. Woo! Welcome, welcome, members. I'm going to be ending this right about now. I wanted to keep this at an hour. You guys, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. Because then ADA Stifler, wait till you see her. She does not say 2021 ever once. Okay. And listen to her argument right here in front of the judge. She then, Jose Baez can't believe it. Jose Baez says, wait, y'all are double downing on this shit? Y'all are double downing? Then they double down? Like, Thomas isn't like, wait, what's going on here? Let's see. Okay, here she goes.
Views a number of Ms. Jensen's statements and Ms. Jensen, the content of her text messages with Ms. Gardner, which were presented at the Arthur hearing. Ms. Jensen can say, I'm not guilty of conspiracy. He's misleading the court, and the court heard testimony that Mr. Thomas from Intrepid Group and Ms. Lucchetti refused to. We made arguments on this being a joke versus not a joke. And
Have to do it.
so in the Richardson aspect, Your Honor, I would ask that you didn't $1,000, which happened to pull our records into evidence. That was he's misleading the court, and the court heard testimony that Mr. Thomas from Intrepid Group and Ms. Lucchetti refused to speak as in a actual custodial, not custodial, but an actual interview about the facts rather than just saying, no thanks, call my lawyer.
Here we go. This is the money part.
And then lastly, that there was some gross misconduct by myself or Detective Johns regarding the financial records. The state of Florida never, ever, ever made the argument that those records were contemporaneous with the checks, as if to say, hey, he transferred it and then he immediately wrote a check from that.
You're a fucking liar.
Exactly what Mr. Mizrahi said. We put fuller records into evidence. That was part of the slideshow. The date, I clearly asked. Both myself and Detective Johns clearly said those records from 2021.
Clearly, you a fucking lie. I can't. I fucking love it. Double down.
Because the argument was that Mr. Fernandez and Detective Johns testified it. Mr. Fernandez did what Detective Johns called odd things with the money and was constantly moving money around between accounts, that there were withdrawals from the irrevocable trust fund into that First Choice LLC home rentals account over time consistently prior to the murder.
None of that was testified to.
And the important part was those records are important. They don't correspond with the checks. They correspond with Mr. Fernandez's discussions with Henry Tenen, which began in November and December of 2021, that he was moving the money around, beginning these discussions, and that he promised Henry Tenen, as came out from Detective John's testimony, a sum of money of $150,000, which happened to correspond with the December 2021 Christmas gift from the Gardners to Miss Gardner and Mr. Fernandez.
And then you got people like this. I was about to side with the defense until not now so much. Yeah, because you think that a prosecutor gets up there, you think she's telling the truth. She ain't. And I'm going to take a little clip and I'm going to make it, and I hope everybody spreads it far and wide. She's fucking lying. She never said 2021, ever, not once.
So I never made any attempt to mislead or state the evidence meant something that it did not mean.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have shown it in a damn slide. You were highlighting that $5,000 transfer in 2021, a year before the murder. You know how much money probably went into that account? Hey, we have to find an amount that's $5,000. And then we're going to make it seem, and all we have to do is testify, and we're going to make it seem like that's it. You think the judge would have felt some other type of way? That's 100% what. I want to see what this judge says, because if she's going to believe this line of bullshit, then she ain't who I think she is.
The records are what they are. And the state also put into evidence, as further proof of her involvement, the filings for the LLC, the yearly.
Her involvement with the filings. Go fuck yourself.
Filings for 2001 and 2022 from Miss Gardner.
She didn't. How do you know Miss Gardner filed that shit? You do that shit online, you stupid bitch. This is fucking horse shit. I hope I get fucking.
So those
damned.
records weren't mentioned. I didn't just put in a snippet of 2021 records, say they were from 2022.
Yeah, you did.
Try to mislead this court
That's
in any way.
exactly
We put
what
in
you
a multitude
did.
of records. We talked about a multitude of
put in
financial
shit.
gifts, transactions, promises, and filings from multiple years.
You're so full of shit. You are so full of fucking shit. Go get a perm, bitch. Sit down. This is embarrassing. You're embarrassing. You had me believing
And I have
it.
one moment, Your Honor.
You wouldn't have been skipping around.
All of these records, all of these text messages, all of these transcripts, all of these interviews were provided to defense counsel in discovery ahead of this hearing. So in the Richardson aspect, Your Honor, I would ask that you deny the defense motion. There has been no discovery violation.
Look at this. Look at his response, like mine. He wishes he could be like me right now.
I'm just shocked. Not only do they double down on false statements, they make it worse. And I'm gonna be really quick and brief with my bullet points. Number one, all you have to do is that's why I pointed out the timeline. First comes the grand jury, then they confiscate, then she turns over the phone, and then they have the text messages. It's then they have this secret meeting, or this meeting, this unrecorded meeting with a co-conspirator. So there's no way that the grand jury absolves them of their discovery violation for what occurs in the meeting after they have the text messages. It's absurd on its face.
100%.
Then Mr. Mizrahi, the first thing he gets up here and says, well, this all could have been solved with an email or asking us for the bank records. If they don't have them, they could have emailed us. Well, we did. We sent them an email on May 24th of this year.
It was actually October 9, 2023, and we sent the same email in May of 2024.
So
Take
we're
your
asking
fucking
them for these
email.
bank records, and they're still not providing them. And then he's getting up here and he says, well, why didn't you email us? Okay, maybe he just didn't know about that. But then you got the Susan Lee thing. They disclosed her. Yeah, they disclosed her at the 11th hour. The court heard arguments of that, and we were trying to.
It's embarrassing. She didn't say 2021, and he calls it out right here. He's like, the transcripts will show it.
It's not there. I'm looking at the slide right now, and it goes straight to, I'm sure he knows if I don't have to call him out for being a liar. But according to Ms. Stifler, I need to have voice recordings on the ready.
Look at these people writing. Her family is desperate. Mrs. Narcissistic does not like jail. Her parents are putting the pressure on him. He already sounds like he's lost this case. She is ridiculously beyond guilty. Look at these people. I can't fuck with stupid. This is why I can't watch people. This is why I can't watch people's shit. This is just beyond stupid. How the fuck you highlight that shit, man? That's some fucking love you guys, baby. Either fuck with the best or get the fuck out of my way. Told you guys this case was worth watching, and now we're gonna have YouTubers pushing false narratives. Yeah, you wonder why I'll be snagging every interview on this case and nobody else will, because dumb doesn't get to reproduce on YouTube, and neither does false narratives. See you guys later. Mic drop. I'm so hot over this. This is ridiculous. If she's so guilty, then get her the right way. If she's so guilty, get her the right way. Go ask Detective Jones. I'm sure he'll clear it all up for you guys. Detective Jones, give him a call. Jacksonville Police Department, Detective Jones. I'm sure they're going to laugh at you.